Let's review the database that we created. So we open up the XAMPP control panel and I clicked on Start the Apache web server. I clicked on MySQL to start the database, and then if you click on Admin, that should bring you up to my PHP My Admin page, in which we had some databases that were already created for us, but we created our own database, which we called products. You can click on this little house to get to this home page if you're not already here. We clicked on databases. We created a new database. We have a little field that we can get started on. We created a database name called products and then create, which created us this blank database. In the blank database, we created a new table. And so you could click on the new here if you don't have a table already set up, and this is where we set up a table. We created a table name that was called product, single, what was it? I don't remember. Oh yeah, single product. So our database name was products. Our single table is called product. So you would type in product here. We created 3 columns, I believe. One for the ID, one for the name of the product, and one for the price. And so we wouldn't use all 4 of these. This is where we created the fields. We created one called ID. We gave our ID a varchar, so characters, string characters. We limited the maximum size you have available is 255. We limited it to something smaller. We didn't need 255, but anytime you use a string or a varchar, you need to have a length. We also came over and we decided that we were going to click on this particular drop down because this is our primary key. So we selected primary and then go. I'm not going to actually save this because I already created it. So we created an ID, we created a price, and the price was a float. So we gave it a float. Don't have to add anything more to there. We gave it an item, which was the name of our item. And again, we used a varchar for that, and we limited it in size because at the moment we don't need anything really big. So at the moment, if I click on save, this will save that table. And in the end, I don't want to save it because I've already created it. In the end, it'll look something like this. Actually, it's blank at the time that you did it. So here's the structure. So structure gives us the ID, the price. This is what we just created. You can go into insert here and manually insert some things. So if I want to add I'm going to add a car because that's a legitimate instrument. 1, 2, 3, 4. Price is this is a cheap car, and then here is this is, we'll just call it a cheap car. And then you can click on go, and the nice thing about that is it also gives you the SQL statement that you need in order to make that happen. If you see right here, there is this option that says create PHP code, which will kind of do the same thing for you. It gives you something that you can copy in. That works. You can see that all of these backtick marks are put in automatically. Remember, we decided in class that those aren't necessary, but because they have these quotations, double quotations, they're backscaping escaping the single quotations because these are strings which are necessary for part of that for that entire SQL string. So however you want to do it, but this is just a review to make all that happen. So anyway, if I go back to browse, I should see that my cheap car was in fact input. So yay, that's good. You can see that you can edit things manually in here, but kind of defeats the purpose for what we're working on. So the other thing we needed to do in the database is we needed to make sure we set a permissions so that we have access, a username and password. So I'm going to do a global permission. So again, I'm going to go back to the home icon, and then I'm going to go up to user accounts, and currently there are some user accounts that are already created, but we're going to create our own. And so I'm going to add a user account down here, and I'll give it a username of my name. I'm going to give it a local host. Password is going to be CIS239, CIS239. And then make sure that you have grant all privileges. So this will apply to all of the databases that are created on this particular MyPHP MyAdmin, so anything else we might have to work with. Global privileges, so again, we're going to let this user do anything they want to that database. We might not want somebody to be able to edit or change data, but in this case, we definitely want them to be able to do everything. We don't want to create a database with the same name. We've already created the database, and I don't want a database by the name of Kirsten, so we'll just accept that, and then you come down to the bottom and click on Go. And so I don't need that popped up, thank you. And so now I have a user that's been created that has, if I go back to products and I click on privileges, I should see that Kirsten has access, all privilege access to this particular database. This is what we're going to need when we are writing code from PHP. So that's an overview of what we did on the database, if you want to set that up so that we're ready to rock when we get going again. That is the database.